Doing a delicious blueberry pie. It is packed with blueberry flavor and it's nice and thick and beautifully sliceable. And then those blueberries are mixed in with just a hint of orange zest and a little bit of vanilla extract to kind of like round and warm the flavors. And with the flaky, buttery pie crust, it makes for the perfect bite of summer. If you're enjoying this video, be sure to hit the subscribe button below and click the bell icon to be notified every time I post a new and delicious recipe. Let's get into it. So, blueberry pie. We are gonna pre-cook our filling. You don't technically have to, but in order to get that really nice, thick, beautiful, sliceable pie, it is kind of a necessary step. So, but very simple, and it's not gonna take that long. So we've got our blueberries here. We're gonna put them in our pot. Yum. A little bit of sugar. A little bit of vanilla extract, a little bit of lemon juice, and then we are going to zest an orange. I mean, not the whole thing. We're going to zest part of an orange. We really want like the floral notes of the zest, as opposed to necessarily making our whole pie taste like orange. But you know, you could 100% use orange juice in place of the lemon juice. But you aren't going to get as nice of a tart filling to kind of counteract the, I mean, my berries are very sweet, very juicy. You could, of course, use frozen berries here. That would be a great option. I'm going to go ahead and stir this together. Really doesn't take much doing. Right, and then we've got tapioca flour. So I do prefer to thicken this pie with tapioca flour. I find that it has a nice amount of thickening power without any sort of discoloration like you get from flour, or even you don't have to use as much as you would with cornstarch. And I also find that the flavor, even when baked, sometimes you can kind of feel that cornstarchy texture. It looks like a lot, it is a lot, but we want that thick, like really sliceable pie. Because these are blueberries, you could omit any sort of thickener if you wanted, because they have a lot of natural pectin. But if you want, they're then going to kind of leach, especially after they're baked and cooled. They'll kind of continue to release their juices, and then you'll find yourself with a bit of a situation, a juicy, beautiful situation that no one's going to complain about. So, thicken or no thicken. We are going to pre-cook, especially if you are not going to thicken your pie with any sort of starch, then you should absolutely pre-cook it. You want to kind of activate those blueberries, get them going. So go ahead and pop this on kind of low. We don't want the tapioca starch to activate yet. We really want to kind of release and pop some of those blueberries and then bring it to a full boil. Boil it for a minute, and then we're going to cool it. Our filling has thickened considerably. You can see that the tapioca has really thickened it. Some of the berries have popped and made the nice sauce, and we are just going to take this and transfer it to our baking sheet, because we have to cool this before we go ahead and put it into our pie crust, because we worked so hard to put all of those beautiful flaky layers in our pie crust, and we don't want to undo all of that hard work by putting hot filling into a butter-based crust, because the butter is going to melt and sadness will ensue. Spread it out. If you want to pre-chill your baking sheet, you can totally do that. Make it faster, cool a bit faster. We're going to cover this with plastic wrap, pop this in the fridge, and kind of cool it down while we roll out our crust and get ready to assemble. All right, so our filling has chilled completely. It's very cold to the touch. I've already rolled out my pie crust, and they are also pre-chilled, so really we can just kind of like roll through without having to stress about really much of anything. So I'm going to go ahead and just get this lined. This is the Foolproof Vodka pie crust that I have up there. Go ahead and take our filling. Okay, so this is a very full pie tin. This tin is, it's a vintage tin, and they Some of them are a little more shallow than they make them today. So I obviously developed this recipe for a kind of a standard modern day pie tin. Oh, I'm gonna go ahead and pop this in the fridge. It is so hot in here that it has decided to basically melt by the time I got that in there. So I'm gonna go ahead and get this in the fridge and then we will check back in with her in a moment. All right, so it's chilled a little bit. And I'm just going to put on the top crust. I've already pre-latticed it. If you want to see how to lattice pie crust, you can watch that tutorial up there. And then we're just going to kind of like flip it on. And then of course, as you transfer your lattice, you might have, you know, some might move, you might need to kind of fix a few bits. All right, now I am going to trim this because this is looking a little excessive. And so I'm just going to go kind of around the edges here and give it a trim. And now we are just going to kind of tuck and roll. So go ahead and give them like a nice little pinch and kind of roll under. You always want to roll under because that way if it pops open, you know, it's not going to let your filling out. Whereas if you roll it in, it could pop open even easier because gravity is obviously at work. And then your filling is, you know, just ready to come out. Now I have preheated my oven to 350 degrees convection. You could bake this at 375 convection, it's up to you. I do have another pie in my oven, so she needs it at 350 and she wins. So we're gonna go ahead and pop this baby in there after we give it a nice crimp. Now we're just gonna go ahead and give it a crimp. Favorite little crimp style here. You can do your favorite, doesn't matter. A fork, a twist, you know, you can put a decorative edge on there. Up to you. All right, now we are just gonna brush this with heavy cream a little bit and turbinado sugar. You could use regular sugar. You could skip this step. The cream or, you know, an egg white or egg wash, you know, really does give you that nice kind of golden top. It helps with the browning. Plus, like, who doesn't love a little, you know, just a little crunch of extra sugar on the top? I mean, I'm here for that always. Okay, turbinado sugar. Just a generous dusting. Dusting is probably the wrong word for the technique that I'm using here. Thick spreading. Okay, I'm actually gonna pop this. It is really warm in here. I'm gonna pop this back in my refrigerator just for probably 15-20 minutes. It just needs a moment more to kind of just re-solidify, and then I'm gonna pop that back in my, pop it in my preheated oven, 350 convection, or 375, up to you. And then our filling is already baked, so really what we're looking for is for a nice, beautiful, golden brown, flaky crust and enough time for the bottom crust to also bake, which is another reason why we've chosen this kind of metal dish, because it's going to help that bottom crust bake up nice and crispy. And it's out. So it baked about 40 minutes until the filling was bubbly, which of course, you know, it's already cooked, so it's not really about that. And then we also wanted to make sure that the crust was a nice golden brown. Gave it a chance to bake, you know, underneath especially also. So unfortunately now we have to let her cool, and we're gonna do so. It's the worst part, but, and then we'll check back in. It's time to try. Without further ado, me and the blueberry pie about to get our slice on here. Make sure I cut all the way through, make a nice pretty slice. Yep. Ta-da! There she is. In purple glory. Right there. She lost her tip. That's okay. It happens. Especially on the first slice. Tons of filling going on in there. Tons of filling. Love it. Love it. Yum. There's still like intact juice, like blueberries that kind of like pop in your mouth, and then you get the nice, luscious, thick filling that just kind of like, it just like warms you with blueberry flavor. It's like bursting with blueberry flavor. There's like a little bit of vanilla in there that is just so nice. And then like when you kind of like relax and like breathe it in, you're like, wow, what a nice bite of pie. You're like, oh, is that orange that I taste? Sure is. Gosh, you've got a discerning palate. It's just this beautiful melange of flavors. Like there's like a hint of the orange, like the floral notes from the zest that we put in there. The beautiful brightness of the blueberries that are accented with a little bit of lemon juice, and then a perfect amount of sugar, and then just like that nice round warming flavor of the vanilla. Just amazing blueberry pie.